Ever get that odd gut feeling something's off but you can't put your finger on it? Like you're not fully calling the shots in your own life. Like there's some invisible hand pushing you in directions you didn't choose. Maybe you've gone along with favors you didn't want to do, caved in during arguments when you knew you were right, or trusted people who later turned out to be someone else entirely. If that sounds familiar, and it does, whether you admit it or not, then this is meant for you. Here's the ugly truth. You're being manipulated every single day by your friends, your family, the media, the people in charge, anyone who's figured out how to work those hidden levers in the human mind. The worst part? You don't even see it happening. You don't need to be hypnotized or brainwashed in a movie theater. The best manipulators just make you think you're in control, that every choice was yours, every misstep was your own doing. Most people sleepwalk through life this way, moved around like pawns in a game they never agreed to play. The moment they try to break free, what shows up? Guilt, doubt, fear. It's like they've been trained from the inside out not to push back. And if you're thinking, not me, I'd see it coming. Well, that's the oldest trick in the book. That's exactly what the expert manipulators want you to believe. I'm not here to give you comfort. I'm here to hand you the playbook. The folks who are masters at this, Machiavelli had it nailed, don't need to raise their voices or twist your arm. They just study you, learn where your walls are thin, and move quietly. They know what pulls your strings. And if you don't know, you're the one getting pulled. You'll see how people steer you without you even noticing. You'll catch the patterns, the emotional setups, the games being played right in front of you. You'll start spotting your own weak spots, the places you're most easily swayed. And you'll finally learn how to lock those doors. Real freedom isn't just about doing whatever pops into your head. It's about knowing exactly why you want what you want. This isn't just a video. It's a wake-up call for anybody sick of being somebody else's tool. For anyone who's had to swallow blame, silence their own voice, or bend until they break. Here, you'll find out how to stop being the puppet and start being the one holding the strings. But I'll warn you, once you see how the game is played, you can't go back. You can't pretend you're blind anymore, so buckle up. Because what you're about to learn could flip your view of people and yourself completely upside down. Ever noticed how some people always get what they want, even when they don't deserve it? They don't yell, don't threaten, don't beg. They just nudge you, just enough. They make you believe the choice was yours all along. That's not luck. It's not even charm. It's skill. It's manipulation at its purest. These people don't act on impulse. They watch. They listen. They pick up on your every little reaction, your soft spots, your hunger for approval, your fear of being left out. They catch the way you tense up when you have to say no, and they use all of it. The game starts long before anyone says a word. It starts with a look, a pause, a smile. Sometimes they'll shower you with kindness, make you feel like you finally met someone who really gets you. They'll make you feel special, seen, heard. But underneath that friendly mask, it's all business. They're racking up a kind of emotional debt you'll feel you have to pay back. Because when someone's that good to you, your instincts kick in. You feel like you owe them. And that's where the giving in starts. They play the victim. They'll tell you nobody else understands them, that they're overwhelmed, that you're their only real friend. Bit by bit, you're set up as the one responsible for their happiness. If you ever try to step away, they don't have to say a word. A sigh, a look, maybe a cutting remark does the job. The best manipulators never have to spell it out. They just wait for you to cave. And then there are the ones who use fear. They paint disaster for you. If you do this, you'll be alone. Or, if you leave me, you'll never find someone like me again. They don't tie you up with chains. They use ideas. They make you doubt yourself so much, you end up staying stuck by your own hand. None of this is new. Machiavelli spelled it out centuries ago in The Prince. Manipulation is a tool, and those who understand people's emotions and interests can shape reality. He said people judge more with their eyes than their hands. Anyone can look, but not everyone can touch. Manipulation is exactly that, an emotional show staged to look just like reality. The manipulator turns life into a stage, and before you even notice, you're part of the cast. They hand out roles, write the lines, and nudge you to play along. The scariest part? You're convinced the story is yours. But this whole show only works because there's something in you that lets it happen. A crack, a soft spot, some wish you haven't faced yet. That's where we head next, the weakness that puts the target on your back. Because if you can't spot what leaves you open, you'll keep getting played, and you'll call it love, or friendship, or respect. Let's drag this into the light. If any of this is ringing true, subscribe and stay close, because this is only the beginning. We are just getting started. Listen, being manipulated doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. Everybody has blind spots, old scars, unhealed hurts, silent cravings that leave a gap. And that's all a manipulator needs. They don't force. They don't shout. They just watch and listen. They pick up on things about you even you haven't noticed yet. Some of us are dying for approval. We learned young, win people over, and you'll be loved. That love is a reward, not a right. So you shape yourself to get noticed, to feel worthy, to be seen. That need, that emptiness. It's all a wide open door for manipulators. They toss you scraps of validation, and you bring them your loyalty, eyes closed. They tell you what you want to hear, and you hand over your independence. Others drag around guilt like a hidden chain. You blame yourself for saying no, for putting yourself first, for setting boundaries. Somewhere along the way you got the message. Taking care of yourself is selfish. Real goodness means self-sacrifice. So even when something feels off, you freeze, afraid you'll be too harsh, too cold, too ungrateful. The manipulator knows this. They act like they're only looking out for you, but bit by bit they twist your choices, using guilt as a leash. And then there are the ones haunted by fear. Fear of being left, fear of being alone, fear of being forgotten. You'll hang on to any connection, even if it's rotten, just to keep the emptiness away. That's when the manipulator steps in, dangling fake safety in front of you, then threatening to take it away. They make you feel like you're nobody without them. And deep down, you believe it, because your fear got there before they ever did. Every vulnerability has a backstory. These holes don't just show up. They're built from old wounds, quiet traumas, hand-me-down emotional habits. And as long as you don't face them, they stay open for anyone with a smile and an agenda to walk right through. Machiavelli saw it all, centuries ago. He knew real control doesn't need force, it just takes knowing where people are soft. The nature of peoples is variable, he wrote. It's easy to sell them an idea, but it's tough to keep them believing it. The manipulator doesn't waste time convincing. They just slip into the gaps you're not watching. They show up where your guard is down, but there's a way out. You don't have to keep being the easy mark. You can learn to spot those cracks in yourself and patch them up. That's when you stop being predictable and start living clear. That's what's coming next. How to build real emotional armor. How to become immune to manipulation for good. Ready to stop being the hostage? Because it's about to get rough. Everybody wants freedom from being played, but not many are willing to pay what it costs. Brutal self-awareness. Because the truth will set you free, but it'll hurt first. And the very first wound you'll have to heal is this illusion. That being nice, being empathetic, being understanding will protect you. It doesn't. In fact, those qualities, if you don't pair them with clarity, just paint a bullseye on your back. Building emotional immunity doesn't mean turning cold. It means waking up. It means catching yourself before you react the way manipulators expect. The first step, spot your own patterns. Slow down. What gets you to give in? Is it the fear of letting someone down? The anxiety of being rejected? that desperate need to keep the peace. When you see what runs you, you finally start to rewrite the script. The next step, learn what Machiavelli called strategic detachment. Get some emotional distance without losing your empathy. Watch without leaping in. Don't treat every compliment like gospel. Start noticing when someone's trying to steer your feelings, and stop before you react. Manipulators depend on you acting fast, not thinking. So slow down. Think. Then comes unpredictability. Manipulators survive on routine. They chart your reactions. If they cry, you comfort them. If they flatter you, you drop your guard. If they push, you give in. Want to defend yourself? Flip the script. Say no when they expect a yes. Walk away when they think you'll beg. Keep quiet when they're waiting for a fight. Break the pattern. That's when the real face behind the mask starts to show. Here's another core truth. You want to be untouchable? Start by knowing exactly who you are. The clearer your sense of self, the less you feel the need to prove anything. And when you're not busy proving yourself, you stop handing over your power to others. Manipulators make their living by shaking up how you see yourself. They get you doubting, second-guessing, always questioning, but only in ways that serve their own story. But when your sense of who you are is solid, that outside pressure doesn't land the same way. Don't kid yourself, though. This isn't a switch you flip after one video. This is training. Emotional immunity is earned, day after day, by watching yourself, catching that urge to please, and refusing to break your own word just because things get uncomfortable. It's remembering you don't owe anyone anything more than your own sanity. These days, keeping your mind your own is a form of rebellion, because everyone out here is playing emotional games, whether they admit it or not. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men must be either pampered or destroyed, because if you just offend them, they'll come back for revenge." It sounds brutal, but it exposes a rough truth. In the world of power, there is no neutral ground. You either take charge of your own emotions, or you get run by someone else's. But what if the manipulator isn't a stranger? What if it's someone under your roof, your coworker, your partner, the person in bed next to you? How do you break free when you can't just walk away? In the next part, we'll go straight into the hardest territory. What to do when emotional control comes from someone you care about. That's the real test. That's when the lines blur and the cost is highest. It's easy to talk about manipulators when they're strangers. What's tough is facing the truth when it's your own family, your partner, your boss, or that friend you grew up with. In these situations, manipulation gets trickier, more hidden, and more painful, because it wears the mask of love, or loyalty, or care. Out of fear of losing the connection, you stay caught in an emotional web that slowly drains your energy, your focus, your sense of self. The manipulator who's close doesn't need to lie outright. They twist things. They don't yell. They hint. They don't ban your choices. They just make you feel guilty for wanting something different. Over time, you stop questioning. You start walking on eggshells. You avoid conflicts. You shape your every move just to keep the peace. Next thing you know, you're stuck in a prison with invisible walls, bricks made from your own emotions. In love, it sounds like, "I only do this because I care about you." Or, "Without you, my life means nothing." But any love that requires you to bow down is blackmail, not love. In family, it dresses up as tradition. "You can't do that to your mother." Or, "You owe us respect." But respect squeezed out by guilt isn't respect. It's just another leash. At work, it's loyalty. You should be grateful. No one else would give you a shot like this. But when gratitude becomes a debt, it's just manipulation with a necktie. Here's what matters. Just because someone's close doesn't give them a license to cross your boundaries. Love is never an excuse to run your life with guilt or fear. But to break free, you have to face something most people run from: Not every relationship with affection is healthy. Not everyone who claims to love you knows how to love you right. And not every bond that holds you is meant to keep you safe. Some are just cages with pretty paint. So what do? Start with boundaries. Clear, firm boundaries that don't need an explanation. A calm no speaks louder than any argument. Then comes exposure. State what you see, what you feel, what you will not take anymore. Not to convince them, but to stand tall in front of yourself. And when they react, and they will, with guilt, silence, or drama, don't fold. Manipulators feed on hesitation. They want you to doubt, to step back. And here's the hard truth. Sometimes loving someone means stepping away. Sometimes it means quitting the old dance and letting them face their own emptiness. Because as long as you keep patching, fixing, or explaining, they don't have to change. But you end up losing yourself. It's a hard call, but it's the only way forward. Only people who break free from these traps develop a different kind of vision, a way of seeing past the words, past the masks, past the surface. And it's with this new vision that we'll take on the next question. How to use Machiavelli's way of thinking in today's world to keep your mind protected when everyone and everything is trying to influence you. It's time to turn the tables. Machiavelli never wrote to make friends or look like a saint. He didn't care about looking ethical or being liked. He only cared about what's real, the side of life most people would rather deny. And if you want to survive in this era of endless manipulation, you need to see things his way, with cold clarity, ruthless strategy, and just enough distance to stay free. Because make no mistake, everything around you is trying to shape what you think and how you act. Social media, marketing, politics, religion, even the people closest to you. It's all about influence, image, and stories. If you don't get wise to this, you'll get eaten alive. Machiavelli saw people as predictable, driven by their wants and their feelings. The ones who understand this end up calling the shots. He said, "Men judge more by their eyes than by their hands. Everyone can see, but few can touch." In plain terms, perception is more powerful than truth, and that's exactly how the game is played now. Whoever runs the narrative wins. Whoever owns the image owns the influence. Whoever reads the psychology controls the room without ever raising their voice. So what does this mean for you? It means stop living on autopilot. Machiavelli didn't buy into universal rules. He cared about context. What helps one person hurts another. What sounds noble can be suicidal in the real world. Kindness without insight is a liability. Honesty at the wrong time is self-sabotage. Endless self-sacrifice is just another form of slavery. If you want to be free, you need to learn the game and play it to win. Start with observation. Learn to read people the way Machiavelli read the nobles, not by what they say, but by what they do when nobody's watching. Watch actions, not promises. Track patterns, not excuses. Trust words less, and look for the real motives beneath. And most important, don't react. Anticipate. Manipulators don't just act, they strategize. Your best defense? Stay a move ahead. Start using silence as your weapon. One of the biggest mistakes people make is wearing their hearts on their sleeves, talking too much, explaining too much, laying out every feeling on the table. The Machiavellian mind knows silence throws people off, earns respect, and totally breaks a manipulator's flow. When you don't react the way they expect, you throw the script out the window. And it's right there, in that unexpected quiet, that you start to take control back. Another skill to master, ambiguity. Machiavelli said, if you want to hold on to power, you need to know how to look virtuous, even if you're not. These days, that means reading the room, shifting your words, your attitude, your whole vibe depending on who's around, without ever losing the core of who you are. You don't have to spill your whole self to anyone. Show just enough to shape how you're seen. Hold the rest back. That's where the real power lives, what stays hidden. But above all, own your emotional state. Manipulators depend on your chaos, your doubt, your fear, your hesitation. If you know yourself, can regulate yourself, and keep steady when things get rough, you become unshakable. Machiavelli would tell you, the wise man follows in the footsteps of the great, because even if he doesn't reach their level, he'll get close. Learn from those who mastered the game so you don't keep getting played by it. Now that you know how manipulation works and how to guard yourself, the big question is, what do you do with all of this? How do you turn this into real-world strength? If you want to go even deeper, check out my playlist, Machiavelli's Forbidden Playbook. That's where I break down Machiavelli's most controversial tactics, how power, boundaries, and strategy really work when you stop playing nice. Links in the pinned comment. That's what we'll dig into in the last part. Taking the wheel of your own mind and cutting every last string that holds you. Ready to see who's really been calling the shots in your life? Stick around, because here's the hardest thing you'll hear today. If you don't take charge of your mind, someone else will. And it's not always some obvious cartoon villain twirling his mustache. Sometimes it's a friendly face sitting beside you. Sometimes it's a phrase that got stuck in your head when you were 6. Sometimes it's just the way society quietly shapes you to follow, to cave in, to stay quiet. The manipulation that messes you up isn't just in other people's words. It's in the thoughts you never question, the emotions you take as gospel, the choices that are really just old fears, or guilt dressed up as free will. Real freedom starts the moment you stop calling your conditioning free will. But that freedom's not cheap. You'll have to drop the fantasy that everyone means well. You'll have to let go of that old picture of yourself as someone who always has to be nice, always has to be the peacemaker. You'll need to get comfortable with the silence that comes after you set a boundary, with the loneliness that follows when you walk away from a toxic setup that used to feel like home. You stop getting manipulated the day you stop needing acceptance, the day you care more about being clear than about being liked, the day you can look someone who tried to run your life straight in the eyes and, without raising your voice, say, no more. What you do with this knowledge, well, that's on you. You can pretend none of this matters and go back to autopilot. Or you can start, right now, retraining your mind to spot the games, push back, and rebuild on your own terms. You can decide to be someone who never bends to emotional blackmail, who sees through the masks, who stands tall, even when everyone else is running in circles. Answer this right now in the comment. When did you first realize you were being played? What was the moment that opened your eyes? Or are you still tangled in the same old emotional patterns, looking for a way out? Speak up. Naming it out loud is the first step to breaking the hold. And if this video shook something loose in you, don't stop here. Watch the next one. It's just as important, maybe even more. Knowledge is a ladder. Every rung you climb takes you further out of the dark. So keep climbing, because the truth doesn't just set you free, it changes who you are. Next, what I decode of Machiavelli's philosophy will hit you more than this one. I'll wait for you there.